Cameras okay?
Yep, I'm right on. Thanks.
Good morning, everybody. New South Wales is at a critical stage in relation to the virus. We need to make sure the spread stops. We need to make sure everybody who's in self-isolation stays in self-isolation. We are ramping up our compliance. We're making sure that people are followed up. If they're supposed to be in self-isolation and they're not, there are harsh penalties and we'll enforce that. We have to take this seriously, and if New South Wales citizens follow the health advice, which is if you're self-isolating, stay in self-isolation. That includes contacts, direct contacts of people who've been diagnosed with the virus. If you are under those instructions, please follow those instructions. Do not go out into the community. The quicker we stop the spread, the more handle, the more control we'll have over this virus. And as the Chief Medical Officer will update the community this morning, we have had a substantial increase in number of cases again overnight. I don't want to see that number going up as rapidly. We have to maintain the spread, contain the spread, and this is exactly the critical time in New South Wales for that to occur. I also want to thank the New South Wales Police Force for their contribution in relation to containing the spread and making sure people are complying. We know it's a tough time for many in the community, and my heart breaks for those businesses that had to shut their doors. My heart breaks for people who don't have a job anymore, but please be assured that all governments are working hard to provide support to help all of us get through the next few months will be difficult. And I also want to thank our school communities. For many people, they had to change what they were doing or think about what they were doing, and I want to thank our teachers and I want to thank our parents and school communities for the way in which they've responded to the government's direction yesterday. This is a difficult time for us, but I'm confident New South Wales will control as much as we can the spread of this virus, so long as everybody steps up and does what they need to do. But we are at a critical stage, and I can't emphasise that enough. And I'll ask Dr. Kerry Chant to give an update today, and then we'll take some questions.
Thank you, Premier. We have totally 818 total cases of COVID-19. That's an increase of 149 overnight from 8 a.m. We have 174 are locally acquired, where there is a known contact with or an epidemiological link as part of a cluster, and we have 425 that are overseas acquired. And I would like to reinforce the Premier's message. It is essential that anyone who has returned from overseas, since the requirements to self-isolate through the border have been put in place, we urge you to please comply. We are seeing an incredible burden in our recently returned overseas travellers, and it is essential to protect the border community and those that you love to maintain that self-isolation. There have been 6 deaths, and there have currently 13 people in ICU. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions?
Premier, do you accept that it is unacceptable, the level of confusion that you've caused over schools?
Oh, look, our direction in schools is very clear, and I'll ask the Minister for Education to also discuss how schools communities are adapting. Schools stay open. If you need to send your child to school, schools stay open. However, we are recommending at this time that parents keep their children at home, and I said that yesterday and I say that again today. We appreciate what a challenging time this is for everybody, but we know for practical reasons, a third of parents were keeping their kids at home last week. Yesterday that number went up substantially, even before the messaging around what we were recommending. And we also appreciate, and let me be frank, based on health advice, we don't know what the next 5 or 6 weeks will look like. We are entering a period where our schools are about to go into school holidays, and it's appropriate for us to make sure we get the home learning up and ready. This has been a good chance for us, an opportunity for us to make sure that whether it's through web-based tools or whether it's through home learning, that we have the systems in place to support our children, to support our students, given what we might face into the future. Good government means prudent planning. It means making sure you have a no regrets policy, and I have a no regrets policy. I'm incredibly extremely pleased with the decisions we've taken to date. I don't regret any of them because I believe they're in the best interests of our citizens, and I'll continue to make decisions based on the best interests of our citizens because we are in uncertain times, and I want to look back and think that every time we made a decision, it was the right one for our people. And I don't care what criticism I get, throw it at me, because I am doing it because I believe it's in the best interests of the citizens of New South Wales. We are a different state to the rest of Australia. We have the most people returned from overseas, we have the highest number of cases, we have the highest concentration, but to give you assurance, we also have the highest rates of testing, and that's what's giving me comfort.
Is there something, Premier, that has prompted this new warning from the two of you today about self-isolation?
Well, yes, because if you look around the world, if you see how the virus is getting out of control around the world, if you see the huge escalation in deaths, many countries did not control the spread at this stage of the virus, right? We can tell from our numbers, and they're going up quite significantly every day, but many countries did not take some of the actions this early on in the process in order to control the spread. And I don't want to be another example of a jurisdiction that didn't do what it needed to do at the right time. And I've got an outstanding Chief Medical Officer, and her advice means everything to me, but so does my ability to make decisions for my citizens. And again, I don't care what criticism I get, I will do what's right for our people.
Can we just get clarification? Can we just get clarification on the school issue?
Yeah.
Is it a recommendation or a directive? And I'll give you an example. I got a note home from our school principal last night saying, do not send your children to school unless you, parents, are in emergency services and essential services.
Right. Well, we've said schools are open. Schools are open, schools are a safe place, and the health advice is that schools are a safe place. And we know that for some families, they have no option to keep their children at home during this time. I appreciate that. But schools are a safe place, and they're even safer when there's less children there for the teachers, right? So we know that the decision we've taken is the best one for New South Wales for practical reasons. We knew already the level of concern in the community was there because at least a third of parents were choosing.
His question. He said his principal
said
not to turn up at school unless they're emergency.
Yeah, I will
That's
ask.
a lot of confusion.
I will ask the Minister for Education to talk about. Certainly, the communication I've seen has been very clear, and I know both the Secretary and the Minister have met with all our stakeholder communities yesterday. And I'll ask you to explain what you've done, Sarah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Premier. So as the Premier very clearly said yesterday, we have asked parents where possible to keep their children at home.
It is a recommendation. To look at that, I mean, the number of cases in New South Wales has jumped to 818, and I think, you know, the main message there is for the people who are in self-isolation to do the right thing. It was a plea from the Premier, wasn't it?
I think Gladys Berejiklian is under the pump. I think she's under enormous pressure. I think we saw it there, and it's understandable. She's had a bad couple of days. We saw when that cruise ship came in, the number of people who came in through our borders. She's gone out on a limb and gone against what the federal government, in terms of the messaging about schools, is. So she's feeling the pressure. But as she said then, she's trying to do the best by her state. And 149 new cases overnight is not getting anywhere near arresting that curve. And so that's what her biggest worry is. So you can see her there, that she's trying to weigh up.